Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is LoreForged, a podcast for Ashes of Creation, and we are your hosts. I'm Jibs, and I'm joined by Sunny.
Hello. You are now talking to the proud owner of various marathon-related injuries.
You went full send, didn't you, buddy?
Yep. We finished the marathon and acquired all of the bonuses that come along with running for 26.2 miles, including potential stress fractures and insane muscle tenderness. It's rough. I was in my foot was in an ice bath earlier tonight. When was the last time that you had an ice bath, JB?
Oh, it's been a good minute. A solid minute. In fact, years and years.
Well, when you introduce the next person, he can answer this question because I know for a fact that his fire station spoils him with ice baths. So you feel free to introduce him, and I can ask him when the last time that he had an ice bath was.
Fantastic. And Cash is here.
Hi. Apparently, I'm telling a story.
Yeah, your story time. Go.
Yeah, this is a fact. It's like a bougie California thing, but yeah, our fire stations have ice baths, and I don't know. It's been probably a couple of weeks. I'm not like a massive fan of them, but they're really, really good for workout recovery. So, yeah, we have them, and I wouldn't say that we're spoiled with them because it is an absolute form of human freaking torture, and I think that's part of the mental toughness part is part of the deal.
You know, they say if you do that for 2 minutes, it's either every night or first thing in the morning. It's pretty amazing for you.
You'll live to be 104.
Yeah,
hate most of it.
There are a lot of proven benefits of ice baths, particularly if you're have an active lifestyle or have a active job, or if you just work out really hard. So,
Interesting.
You know what else has been proven to be quite beneficial for recovery and mood and your mind and just overall mental health is alcohol.
Oh,
proven.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you can't like overdo that, right? Like you just the more the better, right?
Well, no, I mean, people, they know their limits, and especially when you have alcohol,
yes,
it actually enhances the fact that you understand and abide by such limits. So just feel free. You
become more of an adult, I would say, which is why teenagers want it. To really, get that professional quality, enhance some of those adulting skills early on in life.
Right. Folks, this has been a public safety announcement from LoreForged, LLC, Incorporated, Corporation. Do not follow the advice of these three dipshits.
Oh, please make that a real PSA so I can add it to the board. Let me ask you this: do you think you can overdo it on pumpkin spice lattes?
Great question.
Keep it in the mouth.
And speaking of which, Cash is repping a very strong look with that mug. It is a skull mug. But Cash, why don't you tell the people what's in that hardcore skull mug of yours?
This was a secret for the people. I have an image to uphold. It should be whiskey, but not tonight. Tonight I am drinking red wine. I wanted something a little more mild. And Sonny, what did you tell me before the show?
I told you that you are a nose hair away from a PSL with a mug of red wine while we record. You're so close. You're right there. You just got to do it. Just give in, right?
Have you ever had one?
I want the fine folks to know that my response to that, since we're all on camera, was I flipped you off.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, no words needed.
I would say that was a visual gag, except there was no gag involved too. Answer JB's question. Have you had a pumpkin spice latte?
I have in the past. I'm not going to deny that PSLs taste amazing. I will not deny that. But they're loaded with sugar, and I'm kind of a wussy about having too much sugar. So I'm not going to lie.
It's all you got to get half the pumps. It's way better.
Yeah, and
true. Yeah,
diabetes.
Well,
the diabetes.
Again, ice baths. You'll live to be 104. Yes, cells and ice baths. You got to balance these things out.
Oh, the way of the Raven Court. Ice baths and PSLs. Oh, well, everyone.
Oh, I am so sending you a picture of exactly that as soon as I can pull it off.
Oh, please do. That'd be hilarious. Oh, welcome everybody again to LoreForged. We have a jam-packed show for you. Today we're doing the mailbag, voicemails, development, live stream announcement. We're going to chit-chat a little bit about that and get a little speculation, the old speculation station. And a roundtable on is lore/story important?
Yes, it is. Conversation over. God.
Thanks for watching the show, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Slow your roll, lore master.
Oh, so gentlemen, we got a this is actually a YouTube comment. It's technically not a piece of email or mail, but it was so good I didn't want to pass it up. And this is from MN3586 on YouTube, and they ask, question for the LoreForged team. This game, to some people, is potentially their last hurrah into the MMO space. A lot of us started playing MMOs decades ago. This means that we have grown up, hopefully, and see the world differently. In terms of creating a successful node, what real-world experiences do you think will translate well into the game mechanics? Cash, start with you.
I first want to say thank you very much for the question. And this sounds like a person that's like probably right in our wheelhouse and probably right in our age bracket, most likely. It does make me a little bit sad to hear that this potentially could be people's last chance for MMOs. But I totally understand that. We've had friends that have peeled off of MMOs in the last probably 5 or so years, just because what has been coming out has not satisfied them. So it does make me a little bit sad. So in terms of creating a successful node, what real world experiences do you think will translate well into game mechanics? I'm kind of having a hard time understanding exactly what they're asking. But if you were to ask me, like, maybe what nodes that they could add, I really think economic nodes, which they kind of already have a bit of. And I see Sunny's eyes going up there, because if you want to talk about like a real world type of a node, I think a good economic node that has some type of intertwining with the stock market system that they want to bring in, or what was the actual name of that, Sunny, that you did a video on?
Oh yeah, it's the stock market. They were going to put a stock market based on like events that moved a ticker up and down for the node.
Yes. So I think something like that would be really, really, really cool. Besides the fact that there's going to be like scientific nodes, probably going to be a lot of crafting and trading and stuff there. And then there's going to be military nodes where there's going to be a whole lot of combat. I just think it would be really cool to have something along the lines of economic/political that would lend very, very well to different types of political intrigue and subterfuge and like white collar type stuff. I think would be really, really cool if you could manipulate markets. And I don't know very much about it. This is probably Sunny's wheelhouse, and I apologize. Like if I stole anything from you, Sunny, on this, maybe you can elaborate if this was your pick. I think the only other thing that I would really, really like is something that was just completely nature based. So, somewhere where you were having to do a lot of hunting and harvesting of the land and tending to the land. So, and I know there's kind of a mixture of some of those things in there with some of the nodes that do exist, but I think from real life stuff, I think that would be like land management type stuff would be really, really cool. But those two things I think would be neat.
So I'll go next. And I would say that, yeah, I mean, you do steal a little bit of my thunder whenever you talk about economic nodes, because obviously that's like some of the things that I'm the most excited about. But I would say that, and there definitely is economic nodes in the game, and they have their own features. And The nodes really get cool when you get to those highest level things where you get the node bonuses. And I think that the economic node opens up the ability to have markets across different metropolises and connected trading and stuff like that. But that's not entirely where I was going to go. I do agree that those mechanics work well. The question is actually really complicated because he patches in like 3 or 4 different thoughts in it, right? So he's got, in terms of creating a successful node, what real world experiences translate well into game mechanics, okay? So it's not like in the game, but related to the node. So the only thing that I could really come up with on this thing, I thought like, okay, what real world experience in a node would translate well? And I think it's the mayoral stuff for me. I think the mayoral tricks and abilities to have the mayor say, I need this now. I'm going to put up an order. I'm going to get the people to start bringing me the stuff so that I can build the thing, right? Those like mayoral edicts or whatever they were called, where they say, I want to build a blacksmith in this town because we need a blacksmith. The people want blacksmiths. I was elected on the Sonny will bring you blacksmiths platform. And so now I have to get the stuff to get you a blacksmith. And so I put out, there's tools involved in that, and I can put out a call for those materials, and now those materials come. So those kind of tools that are in the game are real world, right? If the town wants to build something, they need to get the resources to build it. So you got to give the mayor the ability to get that stuff and then build it. And that kind of real world communication between the people and the mayor, I think would work really well on a node if the mayor is actually listening. And I think that the best nodes are going to be those ones where the mayor actually has a fair amount of communication with the people in his node.
That's a really, wow. Both of those are really, really good. I think when I consider this question, first off, it's a really, really, really good question. I'm going to pull on our history, real life history a little bit. So piracy. And I'm going to flesh it a little bit with a little bit of fantasy. So in Pirates of the Caribbean, and I don't want to spoil anybody who hasn't seen it. I mean, if you haven't seen the whole thing by now, then I kind of don't know what to tell you. It's kind of like Back to the Future. Like it no longer holds under the spoiler law. It's been out for how many years now? You know, like
it's been long
20 plus years. Yeah. So 30, 40 years. So anyway, like it's been 80 years. But anyway.
Does he get Back to the Future?
You bozo. Hoverboards don't work on water unless you got power.
Great Scott, Marty.
Great Scott. Oh, man. So many good lines. Anyway, so the Pirates of the Caribbean films when all the pirate lords are together on that one island. Or when they're on the island of Tortuga. And it's just this whole vibe of just piracy and lawlessness. I would love to see something that's based around piracy where there are, whether it's something that they do, PvE particularly, or PvP would actually make more sense with piracy. There'd be a list of top 5 or top 10 people, and those people form the council. And out of that council, they have to vote for one mayor. And so if you can imagine the level of under double dealings and backstabbing that would take place and things that you could possibly see from a political standpoint, a place where there's just pure lawlessness with a skosh of, you know, foundational politics, I think that would be really cool to see. Something that just kind of brings in that whole piracy era.
And Firebrand brings up a good point in chat. Maybe in an expansion, there could be a new node type, diplomatic nodes. And this is kind of what I'm talking about, right? So, because I know like economic nodes are a thing, which was brought to our attention in chat. For sure. Like I get that. But to be able to dive deeper into that political spectrum, I think would be really, really cool. I mean, it happens in our real world every day. There's nothing but one side versus the other. And it's just like political sabotage all the time. And I think it'd be really cool. And he continues, and you'd get access to special political abilities like spying and sabotage or rival nodes like that. That brings you back to some of the really cool RTS games, right, Sonny?
Oh yeah, I mean, anytime you can have that kind of communication. I thought diplomatic nodes might have been in there. Which are the nodes where you get to elect the mayor? Because one of those ones you do elect the mayor. So
I think
I'm just looking up
scientific node.
That's right. You're right. I think that's the one. because the node types here, according to the wiki, are divine, economic, military, and scientific.
Yeah.
But the diplomatic node is basically your scientific node, right? That's the one where you have to sway voters to vote for you. But yeah, like diplomacy, and when it gets into that kind of stuff where it's like true Roman, like ancient Rome type of diplomacy, where the whole thing is diplomacy, and that's how the military works for the various diplomats, and they have their private armies and stuff like that. You could do some super cool stuff with that.
Yeah.
And that is very much real world, applicable. That existed for hundreds of years until eventually, they kind of got weak and the barbarians came in and burned their town down. But yeah, absolutely that would apply totally.
Damn barbarians. I'll tell you one thing though, the barbarians, they brought the freaking wow factor.
Yeah, they did.
Burning and pillaging, and I'm not going to mention the other part of what came with that, but burning and pillaging is way more fun than voting.
Right.
You mean the fashion, right? Like the fashion that they brought with the horns and the furs and the boots.
Yep. That was it.
Skins and all that stuff. Yeah. It is interesting though, Jibs, that you bring up the pirate thing, because I happen to be listening I'm listening on Audible to a really cool pirate book right now. I think it's called Blue Waters and Black Sails, and it really dives into what pirates were, where they came from, and the fact that not quite everybody hated pirates back at the time for the things that they did, because they brought home a lot of booty, me hearty. So it was pretty damn cool. They brought some wealth into a lot of pretty pronounced cities such as New York, and New York was like, come on in and bring your booty, spend your money here. It's pretty
really?
Oh yeah, it is insanely interesting at how the history of piracy in our world helped to shape some of the modern cities that we have now. It's just freaking nuts. So that one really did interest me quite a bit. But I know we're going to move on. I know we want to move on.
Okay, stop though. The book is called Black Flags, Blue Waters, The Epic History of America's Pirates. And it is by Eric J. Dolan.
Correct. It's
now
really cool. And actually, one of our friends, Ardeth, turned me onto that book, and I really do. I'm enjoying it immensely. So, okay. So speaking of the spirit of giving, it's funny. I laugh at my own jokes. We want to remind everybody that on November 4th, we are going to be doing our extra live stream. Next week, we're going to be announcing some additional things, which is pretty cool. But anyway, in a nutshell, we're doing our extra live stream on November 4th from noon to 8 p.m. EST. If you don't know what Extra Life is a charity organization that was formed and is run by gamers, where all of the proceeds go to children's hospitals across the United States and Canada through the Children's Miracle Network. Anyway, what are we doing? We are doing a tabletop RPG live on Twitch, and we are going to be doing it in Dungeons and Dragons style, but we're going to be in the world of Vera. So it's going to be very special. We're working really, really hard. Jibs is working really, really hard too, because he's going to be our DM for the day. And I know that he's building a pretty incredible quest for us and a pretty incredible system for us to work under. So come and join us November 4th, noon to 8 p.m. EST. Enjoy the fun. Help us give to the kids. And we just coincidentally happen to be working towards donating to Rady's Children's Hospital, which is in San Diego. They are closest to Intrepid Studios, and that is the hospital that they have chosen to also donate to. So you can help us out. And that's about it on Extra Life. More to come.
Going to be an awesome time. I can't wait. It's going to be it's getting closer.
As a real quick thing, just note this one thing. We don't have a tank. It's going to get interesting.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely going to get interesting.
Yeah.
Sonny's like, I'm going to be a bard.
I got a loot.
I'm going to bash you over the head with a musical
Stand
instrument.
behind me. Oh, that's so good.
I can give them a little ditty. Maybe they'll
We
get
got
distracted.
Thorin Luton Shield over here. See how this goes.
Thorin Luton Shield.
All right. Well, Cash we all, I think, kind of put out the word last week on voicemails. So we got a couple voicemails here for you guys. The first one, just to preface, this first one, we're not sure who it's from. And I think they had some bad signal, but we want to play it anyway. So this first one is from the Unknown Traveler. It's what we'll call them right now. All right, let's check this out.
Hey, Jibs. Hey, Cash. Hey, Sonny. Just got done listening to your character creation, the latest episode podcast. Been following Jibs and Cash. Didn't realize y'all come. Just glad I love hearing you guys. Always gives me a laugh. Y'all are doing a wonderful job. Keep up the good work, and hope you are all doing well. Bye.
I think that's Traylon.
Yeah.
That's Traylon?
I'm pretty sure. I think Traylon's in chat too. I'm pretty sure that was you, my friend. If it is, and shout out in chat so we can give you proper credit. But thank you. That was really cool.
Yeah.
There was a little cutting out there, but we're picking up what you're putting down, man. Thank you. It's a lot of love.
Yeah, very much.
I'm picking up what he's putting down because he said I've been following Cash and JB, and then it cut out.
He hit the important parts.
So I see exactly what we're saying here.
He knows what's up.
Stuff's kind of lackluster.
I think JB edited that.
I may know how to use Audition. I don't know. So anyway, Traylon, thank you so much. We appreciate the kind words. And second, we got this from Tested Weevil, our close friend and compatriot over at the LoreForged community. Let's take a listen.
Hey, LoreForged, this is Tested Weevil. Always wanted to say this. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Hey, quick idea for you here for the podcast. You're sitting in a boardroom. On the other side of you is Stephen Sharif and his development team. He gives you 1 minute to tell one thing you should miss in an MMO or one thing that absolutely should be in an MMO. He gives you all 1 minute. Good luck and have fun.
Ooh, okay. 1 minute, Stephen Sharif and his team's across from you. You have 1 minute. What's your elevator pitch? And I'm not going to give you any time to think because you didn't know this was coming in the meeting. Sonny, what is it? You're on the clock.
First of all, if I only get 1 minute, if I'm invited into a boardroom, I am scooping donuts into a bag. I'm going to take all the pens and the little notepads that they have. 1 minute in a boardroom? Come on now. All right, here's how it goes.
40 seconds.
So he asked for something I'm going to skip and something I'm going to include. The thing that I'm going to skip is going to be damage meters and gear score. It's divisive. It's not role play-y. I don't want it. Yeah, I don't need to have mods, etc., meaning that the gamers are just going to find that stuff. I don't need it. Give me a true RPG experience where I have to meet people and then I have to find out whether or not I like to run dungeons with them, whether or not I like to run games with them. I don't want to exclude people I've never met because their gear score was 379 instead of 381. That is not the way that I want to play this game. Now, include reasons to go back to zones that I've already been to, particularly zones in like the early levels. Maybe not like the entrance level, but like you blow through a zone from level 10 to 20 and you never go back. And there's so much effort and time put into those particular zones. Give me reasons to do that. Build it into the freehold system. Encourage metropolises to exist in places that are in lower level areas. You can do this by natural resources. You can do this by trade. You can do this by bonuses on all sorts of things. Just give me a reason to revisit the stuff that you guys have spent so much time crafting so that the only players that exist aren't just at the end game. I want them spread across the map.
Glorious community member, Sonny, thank you for your 1 minute. We appreciate your feedback. The one next to him, the bald one with the knife ears. Go ahead.
Hi, Stephen.
Oh, no.
Stephen, I don't know if you remember me or not, but I've written in several things over the past few years. And I really, really wanted to ask you if you wouldn't mind maybe just including underwater content inside your game. This game is going to be really, 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 really cool. And I think a lot of people are very excited about it. But if I have to walk into any body of water and either A, only be able to get in that body of water up to my ankles, or B, walk into the ocean and sink to the bottom like I have rocks in my pockets, I might have a little bit of a problem with that, and I might write the HR department. because that's going to bother me just a little bit. So that is one thing that needs to be included. Very, very wide and fun underwater content. Thank you. And then the one thing that I think you should take out of games is, I think if there's any people that try and do names that are not lore friendly, like let's say, for instance, somebody puts in your mom 69XXX69. If that happens, then those people should be immediately executed. I don't know if you have the ability to do that, but maybe with AI that could do something. Okay, maybe we don't have to execute them, but could you kick them in the balls really hard and maybe ban them from the game? Thank you. I think you're great. You're doing a good job. Okay, bye-bye.
All right, fantastic. Wow, execution. Well done. I think for me, I'm going to go with, because Sonny took gear score, I think for me, something to keep out of it is, and this may be divisive, but I experienced it in Guild Wars 2 and I really liked it. Take out the leniency or dependency upon gear for PvP and make it more skill-based. That in itself proves to be very genuine PvP, because then what you face is class versus class instead of class and gear versus class. And sometimes not everybody gets all the gear. Sometimes it could be one other thing, whatever. Take the gear grind out and just make it more about skill. Again, I know it's divisive. It's just a thought. Second, one thing I would like for them to include, and I know I think they're already doing this, but a transmog system that is based purely upon in-game currency for cost for change. I am not a fan of games, the slightly growing thing that's happening in MMO gaming, where it is you have to buy a currency that's its own thing, whether it's on a shop or, in fact, Guild Wars had this too. A currency that you could find in game. It'd be rare, but you could find in game, but also you could buy it in a shop. Not into that. Keep it all in house. Keep it all within the currency that people have worked so hard to earn in your game, like Warcraft. It's simple. It's sweet to the point. People look good. They move on with their day. Let's not make a thing of something that doesn't need to be a thing. That's my spiel.
That's good. I don't understand that either. I hate games that have 9 currencies. It just drives me crazy, right? Like, I get why they get that way, but man, Warcraft got that way for a while too, where they just had so many currencies that were all stacked on top. And then you were like, for a new player that came in late to the game, you're like, what are these coins for? And somebody would tell you, it's like, oh yeah, those coins were only useful in 2012. You can't use those anymore. I was like, oh, got it. Right. I'm glad I'm saving these.
Guild Wars 2 is like that. Guild Wars 2 had a billion different currencies.
Yeah, it was confusing.
That got very confusing. And then the game most recently that I heard has a ton of currencies too is what was that top-down one that people really like, the Amazon one for a change that people really liked, and then Lost Ark.
Lost Ark.
The port. Yeah, the port. That one I heard had just an amazing amount of different types of currencies. And I don't like that either. I mean, if you have a good 5 different types of currencies, maybe have some race-based ones and some faction-based ones, that's fine. But you got to kind of call it at that. You can't have too much other currency, because it really does dilute it. Now, I don't mind if there's a whole bunch of different faction, if there's factions that you have to build for, that's fine in order to earn stuff. But when it's just like all these different types of currencies, it gets a little overload.
Reputation, I don't think is the same as currency for me, though, right?
Yeah.
Like if you have to build reputation to get that, that's fine. You can RP that, right? With, okay, I got to impress these guys and let them know that I'm like honored in their community before they'll sell me certain things. Totally get that. It's when it's like, okay, for the 2013 Halloween event, we're going to hand everybody these coins. And then like you get these coins and now suddenly I've got these coins in my bag and I can't use them. And they're just one of like 100 different coins that I have.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it gets worse than that too. Like outside of holiday events, if they're just adding stuff for expansions, then it gets real bad. So yeah, get out of that game. Don't do that.
On the same notion though, like what you brought up, Sonny, with the gear score, I genuinely feel that way too. Like, forget the gear score thing. Yank that out of there.
Yeah.
Forget it. Why? Just get it out. That's a temporary thing that just constantly goes up until a point where you're going to have to reset it or change the system altogether. Like, why are we even doing this? Take it out. Stupid.
It's super annoying too when you're like trying to build groups and stuff like that, because if you put a gear score out there, then that becomes the only thing that people look at. They don't care about anything else. Like you get a number, and if your number is not X number, then who cares? Right. And so it becomes just a thing. I'd like to get it to be back to more of an RPG rather than that.
Agreed.
Like make people join guilds, man. Like make people make friends. Anything. I will harp on this until Ashes comes out at launch. Any system you can design that will drive players to get together and play with each other is a bonus for me.
So then let's talk about this for a minute, though. Let's talk about this for 1 minute. So we can talk about it for more than a minute. It's fine. I'm not limiting you on time, unlike other people. Can you have a game that has a gear score type of a system, which I'm not saying that I'm a fan of necessarily, but it does lend to the sense of progression. Okay, so you say you have an expansion that comes out in a couple years, or I'm not even going to call it expansion because it's so commercialized at this point. Additional content that comes out in, say, a year or two for Ashes of Creation after its launch. And the difficulty goes up. How do you justify not having some type of a system to increase your abilities and power in your character? Kind of like Guild Wars 2 does. In Guild Wars 2, if you don't know, you can get the highest gear in the game, and then that's it. You don't have to get gear ever again because you are now at that top echelon. But how does that lend to a sense of progression when newer content comes out?
I'm not even saying that you can't get better gear. I'm saying I don't want visible gear scores. And I don't want visible DPS meters. That's what I'm saying. I don't want that information to be at the forefront for people to evaluate whether or not they should play with another person. The progression and the gear and the improvement and things like that is totally fine. You know, it is a thing that I do like in MMOs because you do get a really good feeling of satisfaction when you get a better piece of gear and when you've worked for something and you get that thing. Or if you, I mean, even if you're like a person like me, right, that plays a very economic game and I save up a bunch of money and then I'm able to buy a piece of gear that is a very special piece of gear. That's rewarding to me. What I dislike is when you have the random group finders and things like that, that is just like Bob's a 279, but Ed's a 281. You know, and you're like, screw Bob. Bob doesn't know what he's doing.
Bob's out. Sorry, dude.
I know, but I don't like that. It's something that's always bothered me. And it's the same thing that bothers me with the DPS meters, right? Like DPS meters to me are such a limited scope of viewing what a person is doing inside a dungeon, right? If you're a person that's a utility player and they're doing a bunch of things to mitigate problems for other people, that's not going to appear on a DPS meter. And I dislike when they make judgments about stuff based purely on that kind of thing. That's just me. Now, keep in mind that I'm not like a hardcore raider, and there are going to be people out there. Neptune is a guy like this, and he wants all of that stuff because he wants to rip through the basic content. He wants to get to the end game, and he wants to start to knock out end game checkboxes, right? And the most efficient way to do that is to give everybody a big score, and you take those things. I don't like that. I want more of a role play game experience that is less dependent on that kind of stuff.
Jibs, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, after I cough all my whiskey out, sorry. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Goodness. I think for me, I'm going to play devil's advocate. I don't need to know gear score at all, like Sonny was saying. And the same notion when I see in chat talk about progression, go back to the old school days. Get in a dungeon, maybe go off health pool. How much health does this person have? That may be an indicator if they have enough to beat this dungeon, enough firepower in their gear to deal with this dungeon. I don't want to know personally. I would like to just go full on RPG mode. Let's just go in there and, you know, assuming you have some gear, but you don't really know where you stand in that dungeon until you get in there. And then you get in there and you realize, oh, wow, I'm hardly doing any dungeon or any damage. Or, wow, I'm dying very quickly. I may be under-geared for this. I don't need to know what needs to be required of me to do this thing. I would rather keep it open and truthfully a little bit more social in that regard, with discussions with people in game about, and what we could do here, maybe some things to consider, what you should do to help prep yourself for something. I don't know if this would work. I'm just saying, it'd be different and nice to have. And as they go in progression through expansions, why not just increase the boss difficulty? Whether it's health pools or the harder they hit, the more that you have to withstand with health, whatever it is. But remove all the crutches, the visual crutches, and let the gameplay do this talking.
So then if there's no gear score, if there's no measurable gear score, how do you think progression and bettering your character is going to work in Ashes? Like what would be, if you had your choice of how you would want gear progression or character progression to work in Ashes, then how would it be?
I think it'd be just the same as any MMO experience that we played before. So like Cash, you and I both are doing Warcraft right now. Take the gear score out of it. You just improve your gear. You're improving your person through leveling, through achievement, through your in-game experience and things that you're achieving with your character. And, gear drops, all that. I think that just keeping it simple. The KISS method, keep it simple, stupid. Just keep it super, super simple, is what it is. Your stats benefit you. And when you get into PvP, take all that away. And it's pure skill. It's kind of where I'm at.
You like that? Go ahead.
Here's an answer with the PvP thing too, right? Like, okay, so how do you put people in brackets for PvP if they don't have gear score, right? How do you do that kind of stuff?
MMR.
Win-loss, right? Like matchmaking.
Yep.
If you got people that are crushing, great. They should be rewarded for that. It doesn't matter what their number is, whether or not you want to group with those people. You should look at their win-loss type of situation in a PvP realm. Like, how are they doing against good competition? How are they doing against bad competition? Those kind of things are more rewarding for me. But even that, like, that's a compromise I guess I'd take. I'm not really interested in any of those things being visible. I don't really feel like I need those kind of things to be visible. That's the point. It's not that you can't get better gear. I encourage a system to reward people with better gear.
Absolutely.
I just don't want that to be something that you're able to filter out groups based on that as a quick method of getting into groups. I don't like that.
I'm going to tend to agree with both of you on this. I would like to see stuff go back to old school, and I really would like to see the gear score thing go away and for me, it's less of a sense of just having that one optic to measure whether or not you take somebody in a group. Mine is more along the lines of, I don't want to see anybody left out. The big part that I have such an issue with is that if somebody doesn't have a gear score that's good enough, they flat out get left out, where I think a better community building thing is to, regardless of any gear score or anything, bring that person in with you. If the person is faltering or is dying, assist that person, give them some advice, help them along the lines of, what can we do to bring your gear score up? I don't like to see guilds, groups, friends broken apart because of stuff like that. Some people have different skill levels. Some people have different time that they can avail to the game. I would like to see people coming together to help each other get better, as opposed to just completely blocking out somebody from some form of content because of their ability to either A, do it, or B, the time commitment that it's going to take in Ashes in order to get good gear. At some point, there does need to be a line, though, right? You can't take a level 30 into level 50 content,
right,
and expect they're going to do well. You're going to have to use common sense here. And I do have one thing that I wanted to read, and this is from our Death in Chat. I guess I'm in the minority here, but hard work, either in real life or in gaming, should be rewarded. Higher geared, more experience is going to get the slots for the higher tier end game PvE content. I hear both sides, though, just not sure how to balance. And that's where devs come in, because hopefully they've had enough time with MMOs. They understand balance a little bit better than the average player. But, I agree there too.
That really is the trick. It's a good
topic of competition.
Yeah, absolutely. That really is the trick with this game, is balance. We come back to that more often than I think we realize, whether we're talking class design or we're talking events, like the world events. It's always seeming to come back to balance. in one way or another. So I think overall that's going to be one of those things where, whenever we get an Alpha 2, like stuff like this that we're talking about, all these things are on the table for testing, in my opinion. We know seasons are going to be on the table for testing, how long seasons should be, what that looks like, everything. And truthfully, that's going to be, a fun time to test. But anyway, good discussion. Man, that was really, really, really good question, Weevil. Sorry with Weevil's question. And morphed into that.
Is that where that started?
That's 84 years ago. Yeah. But anyways, thank you guys so much, Traylon, and I believe it's Traylon, and Tested Weevil, and of course, MN3586 for your submissions. We got more voicemails in the bag too, so we'll bring those back. So, development live stream announcement. This coming to us from the AOC official X profile. I guess we'll now call it X instead of Twitter. Doesn't exist.
Calling it X? Do we have to call it X?
I don't want to, but
Yes, we do.
I think we have to. Here we go. Okay.
I'm pretty sure you can't just go x.com and get to the right place.
Can we say
right?
the platform formerly known as Twitter?
I'm going to type this in. What happens when you go to x.com?
Don't do that.
Angels.
Dangerous. Here we go. Oh, God. Oh, my God. It goes to Twitter.
Yeah, it's a company name.
Yeah, but they own X, the letter.com.
I wonder how much that cost.
Can't be cheap.
I'm pretty sure they're good.
All right. So anyway, this coming to us from AOC's official X profile development live stream announcement. Quote, our next development live stream featuring an Alpha 2 caravan system preview is coming to you live on Tuesday, October 31st, 2023 at 11 a.m. Pacific. For those of you on the Eastern Coast like me, that is 2 p.m. EST. You have a question and we have an answer. Share it in the link above. Okay, so Alpha 2 caravan system, boys. That's what we're getting this month. Pretty exciting.
There's a lot of rumors this one was coming.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I look forward to
Where do you
this.
hear all these rumors? I never hear
Was
these
this
rumors.
back alley
On
deals?
On X. Come on. Look, I'm trying to hold a straight face. Come on.
No, I'm terrible at social media. I don't even know what it looks like. Terrible. All these new fandangled phones and all the letters and buttons. Yeah.
Like the old cranky lady in the corner.
Oh my goodness. I was at the we had an event with the fire department, and it ended up with like 2 of the 3 shifts at the bar. And so we're at the bar, and one of the battalion chiefs is just looking over at one of our new firefighters, and she's a 20-year-old female, and she's texting, and she's just flying. And the look on this battalion chief's face of watching a 20-year-old text at high speed with both thumbs moving like at the speed of light, he was just like blown away. It was like watching a person write the program to land the shuttle on the moon or something like that. It's just like, what is happening? How is this? Are those words going out like no human could process like that?
I absolutely feel his reaction because, as you know, I have a 19-year-old daughter, and she is amazing. She's way better than me with the phone, and I thought I was pretty damn techie. But you know what she's not good at knowing about? Caravans. She doesn't know about caravans.
Oh, that's
We're
what
gonna
it is.
parlay back into caravan here because this one's going to be really freaking fun. I really hope they nail this one. There's been a little concern about some of the other ones, like the Node one. Some people were like, they got too much into the mayoral things. There wasn't enough about the nodes.
Well,
So-
I kind of agree with them a little bit.
I heard that.
I don't think they're entirely wrong. Don't think they're entirely right, but
Bro, there were cloaks, and there was
those cloaks were majestic as
that was
all get out, man.
Resplendent, even.
If there were any smoke and mirrors at all during that one, it was absolutely the cloaks, because they were like, okay, it's been exactly like 46 minutes. Like, when are they going to, I'm expecting them to talk about, oh my God, look at that cape.
I just want to touch it.
What is it made of?
What does this mean?
Touch the fuzzy wall. Touch the fuzzy wall. Here's a little wind. Here's a cape wrapping around a leg. And everybody was just like, ooh. Nodes what?
Yep.
Anyway, I'm very, very excited for the caravan system, because this, again, is a it's a cornerstone of the game. A lot of people are super excited about all the mechanics that are going to surround caravans, including getting items from point A to point B to either sell, trade. Caravans are tied to the mayoral system. Caravans are very deeply tied to the node system. And at the same time, caravans are most definitely the low-hanging fruit for PvPers.
Oh, yeah. You talk about flanks and political intrigue. How much of that's going to probably start on the road on a caravan? So-and-so.
Road.
Road. It's a weird word. Say it. Road. Oh. Okay. Caravans. There are two things in Ashes of Creation that get me really excited. One of them is it's three things. One of them is freeholds, because freeholds are awesome. Two is the systems behind the mayoral stuff and the nodes and what you can build in there. And three is caravans. Caravans are so important. Like Cash said, they are integral to the game. But for an econ guy in a game, these caravans are everything, right? This is, how do I get large volumes of goods from A to B? What is the mechanic behind this thing? Do I have to pay people to guard these things? Are there going to be like people just showing up out of the blue? Do they get attacked a lot? Do they get attacked not very much? How much can I do this? Like, what level of military operation do I have to do? And do I have to do it in like the dark of night to get my goods from A to B? There's so much in the caravan system that can be tweaked to make this a fantastic game. It's a big deal. It's not a little deal. This is bigger than combat for me, honest to God. Like, it is enormous how they're going to lay out the caravan system, because I honestly think that it will dictate a lot of the stories that we tell to each other about the game. Like when we get together at the tavern, we're like, okay, here's the plan. We're going to run a caravan from A to B. We're going to put a crap load of this stuff in there, and we're going to sell it for a fortune when we get there. Or we're going to build all of this stuff. The mayor needs us to do this. This is how we're going to do it. And those are going to be the stories that we tell. It won't be like, oh, remember the time that we knocked out that like the pre-programmed boss for the 67th time? No, it's going to be these cool caravan stories. Or when we organize a little rogue group and we do guerrilla warfare on somebody else's caravan to try to stop them. My God, that's Christmas, right? For a PvPer. Those are the kind of things that are the best. So this system is an enormous deal to me.
Oh, I agree. Talk about low-hanging fruit for PvPers, and the most exciting thing, hello, we PvPers love fresh meat. We love when the moment, I don't care what game you're in, when you're doing any kind of PvP and you hit somebody with ability and you just watch a chunk from one ability, a chunk from their health go away, it's just like blood in the water, because they don't have gear. It is on. So stuff like that just totally feeds you. And so 1,000% agree. 1,000% agree. It's going to be huge for PvPers.
Yeah, thank God for being able to mouse over somebody and see their gear score before you attack them. Just kidding, Steven. I'm just kidding. No, Net brings up in chat a great point, and this is some of the stuff I was talking about last show of the show before. But Neptune says caravan at 2 a.m. for the win, and it's like, exactly. That is when you blokes are gonna get the ping, because the old man's gonna be up and some crap's gonna go down, and you're gonna get those texts. I'm telling you right now, like, if your phone is set to silent mode or ignore, you're gonna hear about it in the morning, because like, dudes, there's some shiz going down. You had better get your butt up, because we're protecting the node now. Those are the experiences. I'm not saying that I like a lack of sleep, because I don't. I'm just saying those are the experiences, like you were saying, Sonny, that you're going to talk about when we're all in Vegas, or we're all at some freaking LoreForged meetup, and we're going to be hanging out. We're going to be throwing some back and be like, man, do you remember about the great caravan run from Table Schnob to XL City in in '23. And man, we're just going to get to having a freaking blast talking about how that thing went down and how all of Sunny's resources never made it to their intended destination and somehow ended up in some deep freaking mountain in Nakua territory or in Dunir territory.
And Deathkeeper's got a great point here. Bandit guilds, right?
Yeah.
Like you could have a whole guild dedicated to hitting caravans. For God's sakes, that's like practically real life. Like those kind of things actually existed.
I think that's awesome. And truthfully, if we were not content creators and it could look, a place where it wouldn't look bad on LoreForged, I would 1,000% probably do that because that sounds like a ton of fun. Oh my god!
Land pirates.
Just
land pirates.
Yes, absolutely. Why not, right? And you talk about pirates, think about the caravan system for those that are in the water. We're only talking land right now, but there's also going to be sea caravans as well. So Sea of Thieves fans, eat your heart out because whether you're on land or sea, stuff's going to go down. So Sonny, I do have a question for you in regards to this.
Okay.
So you have invested a significant amount. You've been voted in. You're mayor of an economic node. You took someone had invested a private investor.
I'd like to thank all the people that supported me.
Shut your mouth. It hasn't happened yet. So you meticulously go through the financials. You're getting everything ready. You want to make sure that you're doing right by the people. You've just been voted in. You are in desperate need of materials from Schnibblesnob over there on the west. All right.
Man.
Taking that from Cash. So
God, no, that town just is like the only game in town.
It's a German town.
You gotta get it from Schnibblesnob.
It's a German town. It just happens. So anyway, way over in the west is Schnibblesnob, and you got to get this caravan over there. From me to you, someone who I truthfully see more as an economist now than a PvPer, genuinely, you seem to spend most of your time there. So
This is true. Yeah.
how do you handle this when your caravan gets wiped out by a bandit guild that's related to a town from the east that wants your financials?
Okay, so you're asking me like, how am I going to handle it with the town? Like, do I know
how
who
do you
took
respond?
out the caravan?
Yeah, you know who
so-
took out the caravan. It came from a town from the east. You were heading west.
So this is all about the mechanics, right? Like this is like warfare. When they look at warfare and you read a book on warfare, some people are looking for just big picture, like easy solutions to winning wars. And the answer is that it's never that, right?
Yeah.
It's all about logistics. It's all about organization. It's all about how do you feed an army? How do you do these kind of things? So the trick to all of this stuff is going to be, how do I get people to defend my caravans getting from here to here? I'm going to have to pay out on that. That's like the only answer on that kind of thing. But I also want to discourage people from hitting my caravans. If I discourage, you get two ways to do it, right? You either hide it, you do the 2 a.m. caravan, which is absolutely going to happen, or you do it the other way and you make it so painful for them to hit your caravans that they just don't want to do it. But that's really, really hard to do, right? So it's got to be, there's all sorts of different ways to do this, and they're all fun, right? Scorched earth, absolutely, right? Like, if I find out that another mayor hit my caravan from another town, oh, you better believe that we are going to employ all the social media, and I'm going to make videos, and we're going to go after that person. But like, there's just a million little ways to get what you want to get accomplished in here. And it's all about the tools that Intrepid is going to give us. The more tools you give gamers, the more creative they are in the way that they accomplish the things that they want to do.
And on top of the mechanics that I really hope that they show, right? There's at some point, probably at the beginning of it, they're going to start at the caravansary, and they're going to probably be taking a load of goods from point A to point B, right? On top of all of that, I really hope that they touch on in this showcase. I hope that they touch on the things that we are talking about, the potential for content that is made by the character surrounding the caravan system. one of the things that you guys had brought up earlier is entire guilds that are dedicated to the basically bandits, to the piracy of these caravans, right? Who's to say that somebody else can't come right after that and build some type of a mercenary guild that's dedicated to the protection of these caravans?
There you go.
So now you have a mayor,
right?
For hire. So you have a mayor a mayor of a node that has to transport things from point A to point B, or a high level crafter that wants to do trade and has to transport goods that are only available in this node to a location where those goods are not available, so he can maximize his profit. You're going to have to privateer out protection in order to get those goods to where you want them to be. That is an entire other premise for another guild or a sect of a guild. Say you have a very large guild. They're going for that 300 person guild, or it's 300, right? Yeah, for the larger guilds. Yep. 300. Well, maybe you have a division or a branch of said guild that is dedicated to policing the roads or patrol of the roads. You run patrols every night. You know, because you've been in touch with that mayor or in touch with your local crafters when those caravans are moving. Not a lot of people know when those caravans are moving. So maybe you're launching dummy caravans. Where are the goods? Right?
I'm going to take this. I'm going to go one step further on this. Organized crime.
Oh,
it'd be a real shame if, say, your caravan ran into a couple potholes and, managed to lose all the goods. You should probably pay somebody for some protection for said caravan. I mean, it's a dangerous place out there in Vera.
Son, you should lay off the whiskey before you record.
The accents get real hard as the night goes on. But here's the thing, right? So now you have an organized crime guild that says, like, if you pay us for protection, we will protect you from all of these other mafia organizations, these bandits, everything like that. But if you don't pay us, you're going to wish you had.
Oh, yeah. I like that a lot. Muslim. Oh, man. Yes.
I really do think that if they really want to win hearts and minds on this one, and obviously that's what we're talking about. What do they need to make this successful to bring more people into Ashes and just start bringing people into the space? They're just like, okay, now these are some systems that I can really get behind and just really start beefing up that pre-launch or pre-alpha. No, I guess I can't say pre-alpha. Pre-alpha 2 interest in this game. You start bringing more people in. If they can do a really fun mix with this preview of the mechanics of how this is going to work and the potential of player-made content, I think that is going to just be an absolute winner because it's such a cornerstone of the game.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is one of those development showcases that they know that they need to nail, because it's been something that's been shown, since day one, I believe. Wasn't it in the Node? I think it was in the first Node YouTube video. Maybe I'm wrong.
Some of the best footage.
Oh,
some of the coolest footage is of the caravans. It really is.
Yeah. So I look forward to seeing it. Truthfully, I bet they simulate a raid. I bet you see a simulated, what happens when XYZ takes place. What happens if you don't pay your mafia crew for that protection,
God, that's such a good idea, though. I hadn't really thought about that, but bandit guilds seems so obvious. Okay, mercenary guilds. You got a guild out there that's offering a flat fee for the protection of caravans. They say, we'll bring, we will protect your caravan or you're not going to pay us. But if we protect your caravan, you're going to pay us. And that's awesome. That is just so awesome. You give us those kind of tools, give us half up front, and if we protect the caravan, then you give us the other half.
Fireburn in chat says Varan Brotherhood of Teamsters is going to be a mafia guild. See it coming already.
Transport, man. Teamsters all the way. This is going to be so great. I love Weevil's comment too. Moose and Rocco can help you find your coin purse. That was the accent I was looking for. Where was
you
that?
got it. Well, instead of Italian, you went Russian. So well done. Well done.
Oh.
Oh, goodness. So, man, I can't wait to see this. And, of course, we'll be covering it next week on the show, which I don't have my calendar in front of me. I'm not sure when we're recording. So, anyway, follow us on our socials, on our X profile at LoreForged HQ for more. Gentlemen, roundtable discussion. It's the highlight of the evening. Dun, dun, dun. It's the $1 million question. Is lore/story, because whenever some people hear lore, they automatically flip their switch to off. So we're also going to include story important. Is it yes or no? I went to Sunny last time, so I'm going to go to Cash here. 10 seconds or less.
I think if anyone, yeah, good luck. This is the one thing that you cannot put a time limit on. I know that we're going long on the show, and that's totally fine, but this is one thing you can't put a time limit on.
Absolutely.
Is lore and story, because it absolutely just strums my heartstrings when it comes to games. And it doesn't matter if it's an MMO or a single player game or whatever. It's a story is at the heart of my love for games. I absolutely think that the answer to that is yes. And where this question really came from was our good friend Burns over at Ashes of Relation he recently came to us and asked if we would answer a question on for one of his latest videos. And I think the video came out really, really fun. So if you haven't checked out Ashes of Relation on YouTube, then please go ahead and do so, because he's really putting out some really fun stuff. But anyway, my sentiment for sure was absolutely yes. I mean, it's a huge part of games. And like for me, there's several things that go into why it is so important. But the one thing for me is immersion. I mean, I truly think that if you are able to immerse yourself in the world that you're playing in, that sandbox that you're playing in, then it just helps to provide a really good sense of location and context and story, and it brings your game to life. It brings you to some believable place that you can get behind what you're doing. If the main quests in a game are all built around that immersion and that sense of you all have one thing to work towards for the greater good of this particular zone, the greater good of what's going on in this world, it's going to bring you to a place of ease in completing a lot of the quests. Now, side quests are kind of a different story, but it's still, those side quests even help paint the picture of what the world is doing. And I brought one thing up in his video, and that thing was, if Frodo did not have a ring to destroy for the reason of saving Middle-earth, like, that's a pretty big reason to step out your front door, right? Otherwise, who wants to go? I wouldn't want to go. Why would you, unless there was something big like that happening? And look at when you really look at it, if you take Lord of the Rings, the story of the Fellowship, and you take that and you turn it into all these little side quests all over the place. Okay, there's an epic quest, but there's a bunch of little side quests that you have to go and do, and they immersed you in Middle-earth. They made you want to continue watching, and that's what I think these games need to do. You have this main story, you have your epic quest that you're on, but you are going to run into others that are going to need your help, because you've obviously identified yourself as somebody who's capable. So lore, to me, really does bring your motivation, helps to build the world. It helps you develop your own character. So for me, it's a must-have.
Yeah, I don't know how I follow that. This is the problem of following Cash on something with lore, and I'm sure it's the same way with following me on something with economy. Like, it's his thing. Like, it absolutely makes sense. Like, it doesn't make any sense that Frodo, forget Frodo, why would Sam ever leave? Like, right? Sam didn't want to leave in the first place.
Yeah. He was bullied.
He got bullied along by a bunch of other little hobbits to go do this thing. He had to drag Frodo and practically throw him into the mountain at the end of it. So yeah, it is everything, right? And it comes in different flavors. Like, we're all past the point of kill 10 rats in the basement. Like, if you send me to kill 10 rats, it better be a funny story at the end of it, because we're not just killing 10 rats because that's what we want. That's like lazy lore. And we don't need that anymore. We're so far past that. We are higher developed MMO gamers. We want stories. We're dying for stories. Weevil said it. He's like, we already want to play your game. Now just tell us a story. And it goes a long way with me if I know what the story is. Like, I want to know the characters. And for me, the best way that I found is the things outside of the game. It's the books that come with the game. It's the card games that come with the game. It's the other stuff. I'm going to take one here for you, and I'm going to give you an example of a game that did it really well. And it's not SWTOR. SWTOR, of course, did it well, right? SWTOR, they're lore guys. They get that. But everybody knows it's SWTOR. Here's the one that I think is doing it extremely well that doesn't get enough credit, and that's The Witcher. Okay, The Witcher is amazing. It started with books. They made a fantastic game that encapsulated the feeling of the books. It encapsulated that universe in a really, really special way that just made you feel like you were in that place. Like, it was windy and it was dark and you just had emotions that went through. But then they had the game, the card game, Gwent with it. You know, they had all of this stuff. They have the series on Netflix with Henry Cavill. And yeah, that guy. And it's fantastic, you know? And now they've got like branches on branches and stuff like that. And that universe is really coming together from a lore standpoint. And so now when you do that kind of stuff in the game, you like, it's cool. You see the towns and you're like, that's cool. You see the characters. That guy's cool. I know that guy. It's like Warcraft. When you read a book about the Archmage and then you see Archmage Antonidas in the game, you're like, holy cow, I know this guy, right? Without that kind of stuff, without lore, it doesn't exist. You miss all of those moments. And then it's just, I mean, what is it? It's, I don't know, Call of Duty. Like, it's just a mindless go kill rats. Without lore, there is no MMOs. There's no RPGs.
I agree.
I like that you brought The Witcher into this, and I'm really curious to see what Jibs. What are your thoughts? I want to hear from you. Like, what are your thoughts on what games did it the best, and then transition right into what games you think just completely pooped the bed on lore?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it's kind of funny because lore to me is extremely important. It's the why you're there. It's, you know, if you take all the story, like you were saying, Cash, out of the Lord of the Rings, it's hobbits living day-to-day life. What are we doing here? You know, like there has to be a why. One of my favorite things to do, I do this often at work because I'm trying to write a book, and particularly a fantasy book. And I'm working through world building concepts all the time. Like, if this one sticks, okay, maybe I'll keep working on it. If not, then not so much. For Extra Life, one of the main things I love to do is world build for you guys. So when you sit down, this world has now become alive to you, you know, and it's fully at your fingertips. Go live in it. So like that to me is world building is so incredibly important, and it's so much lore there that people can partake. And that's what Lord of the Rings was, the whole experience. Truthfully, a lot of things that you saw and the references they made was from world building. It wasn't the things that you saw on the screen. It was things that were referenced. And, you know, it's just so incredibly important. And so when it comes to games that have done it well or have done it the best, okay, Star Wars The Old Republic was pretty awesome. I mean, we all enjoyed the story. That was, you know, the argument could be made, there was a ton of lore we knew going into it that helped it. You know, if that wasn't there, would it still been as awesome? I don't know.
But but just real quick caveat, everybody knows Star Wars lore, but not everybody knew, or there wasn't a whole lot of Old Republic lore.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's very fair. Very fair. And I agree. Very fair. I think the second one to that, the granddaddy in the room at this point, probably the 1,000-pound elephant still to this day, is World of Warcraft. The lore on Azeroth is just so stupidly deep. I have so many books, like the Azeroth fairy tale book, the book on the history of the Eastern Kingdoms, books on book 1, 2, and 3 of of all the stuff on Warcraft, that and more. Like it's so deep, and something that has had time to cook properly for years, decades even, that has allowed it to be in this place, right? And so really any game, in my opinion, if the IP is properly built over time, invested in over time, it can achieve that, what Warcraft has done. What they did was not monumental. Anybody can do that. The problem is that you need the years and the love and the dedication to that thing for this long to get you there. Next year, it's 20 years of Warcraft. I mean, so hello, or 30 years, I'm sorry, of Warcraft. 20 years of, was it World of Warcraft? I don't know. Anyway, so
Yeah.
Go ahead.
God, I'm getting old.
I know. That was a terrifying statement.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just, there's that. I think the next thing is what games did not do it well. The unfortunate one is, truthfully, to me, is New World. It struggled at the onset of its launch with lore. And it was something that, had it had more time to properly cook, I think you would have seen better. Where you see it now, it's night and day different. When you step in a New World now, there's lore. There is a why to why you're doing that quest. There is backstory. There is things there's layers. It's like an onion, Shrek. Lore is like an onion. It has good layers. And I think New World's one of the ones that truthfully stands out to me. I mean, even for as brief as it was around WildStar, they did good lore. It ended up closing down probably way before its time. The MMO was way before its time, whatever. But, they did good lore there. And I'm trying to think if there's any other MMO that may have struggled in that department. But truthfully, I think it comes down to, for me, Star Wars Old Republic and probably World of Warcraft.
I can think of one that missed the mark real quick, Cash. Right at the end of the beginning of Warcraft, for me, Warhammer came out with an MMO, and it was a big one. And I thought that they really missed the mark on selling me Warhammer's lore, because I was interested in it and I was playing the game, and it just did not grab me at all. So that was a missed one right there. And I don't know, I never really got into Warhammer after that, but I was there. They had me playing their game, and they couldn't land the hooks on me. Here's one that I think is absolutely hitting the mark, and that is the League of Legends team. Riot with their stuff is just knocking it out right now, and they are building lore as we speak, and they haven't been around forever, right? That's just a game where they just had characters with thin backgrounds, and now they just keep putting layers on it and layers, and then you have Arcane and everything like that, and all of a sudden I'm super into it. So that's a game that's doing well.
We almost made a show in that world because of all that lore.
And we could, because there was enough there for us lore guys to be able to do that. That's crazy. That started out as a MOBA not very long ago, and now look at where they are.
Yeah.
They have a ton of potential to really just grab a hold of that and just knock that one out of the park with their MMO. But if you're going to ask me, I think some, well, at least one of these answers might surprise you a little bit. But this is not the one. If I did not give my love and my credence to Elder Scrolls, that whole entire franchise, I think I would probably become a target for the freaking Morag Tong, because we lived in that world for the good majority of 3 years.
That's a good point.
The one thing that we always said is that we will never run out of content to cover, because their wiki is absolutely wildly bonkers, in the words of Sunny. So Elder Scrolls, for sure, I think is one of the ones that has done it best. And the storytelling in Elder Scrolls Online is fantastic. It's not quite to the level of Star Wars: The Old Republic, because I just don't think that there is a better storytelling in a game out there ever from a company better than BioWare. I just think they crush it.
Yeah.
The other one for me, the other one, I guess the reason for Elder Scrolls is because Elder Scrolls was everything was voice acted. Like you're not going to find another game where every single quest is completely voice acted other than that and SWTOR. A single player game, Dark Souls, I think did it very, very well. I think they have a very rich and immersive world where they tell the story very, very well. And so that one is definitely one I like. Now, this is the interesting part. One that for me hits both the best and worst list is New World. I have two reasons for this. We played New World at launch. We gave New World time to cook, and we came back to New World. The thing I love about New World is that they tell the story now very, very well. And if you take the time, I always talk about stopping to smell the roses. You take the time to read through those lore pages, you'll find it becomes very interesting how that world came together. And there was a time where we were very interested in the cryptic things they were saying. We were coming up with ciphers to try and come up with like little tiny points of interest, points of intrigue that they would put in some of the pictures that they were releasing, to translating some of the Latin that was written on the stuff. And I really did enjoy the mixture of real world history with the lore that was there in the game. Now, at launch, they didn't tell the story very well. There just wasn't a lot there. So New World makes both my worst and best list, because I think they're starting to figure that stuff out. You guys hit on some of my best ones. Another one that I did want to mention, two more that I want to mention on the games that did not do it well. Black Desert Online, completely they screwed it up. For such a fantastic game, the story at launch, which has since evolved a bit and gotten better, but it's still not very good at the way they told the story of their world. Their game was very much mechanic heavy, which was great. The mechanics were fantastic. Like their caravan system and stuff was really, really cool. The combat system obviously is just fantastic, but their storytelling was terrible. This one may surprise you more than anything. I think the worst one on my list for telling a story is Star Wars Galaxies.
Whoa.
Yeah. I figured I'd put that out of you. For as much as I loved the game, but it just goes to show, for as bad as their storytelling and quest system was, I loved more the fact that you could build your own story in that game. So I hope both are there for Ashes of Creation. I hope they tell a great story. And I do think that they are going to, because I remember back when the Carfin preview was out there. When they did the Carfin preview, I keyed in on one of the things that one of the developers said. They were talking about the story of the area, and the dev said, I apologize because I forget who it was that said this, but he said, "Do you want me to keep going? Because we can go all day."
Yeah.
And they were talking about lore. And I just went, that is a very interesting point he brings up. And I wonder how many people caught on to that.
Yeah.
Because they were talking about statues and who the statues were of and what their history in the world was. And I just thought, if what he said was true, we can go all day on this. That tells me that there is such a deep story, deep-seated into Vera, that we're going to have to discover, that they are taking those cards and just going, we're going to keep that right there. And you guys are going to discover this once you're playing the game.
Yeah.
That really added to my excitement.
I've seen a couple things, like a couple of videos where they're looking in a dungeon and the architecture. It's like, and here represents the triumvirate of this, and here's like some stuff over here. And so they've got that stuff that's building into it. It'll be really interesting to see how much of that we get and how much we are having to discover ourselves. They don't seem like the kind of development team that's going to lead us by the nose to all of these things and like, look at this, and now here's a big exclamation point, and look at this. I feel like they're going to make us earn it a little bit more, but I feel like it's there too, right? Like, I feel like they are the kind of team that has put the thought in, and they're building it in there for guys like us that are going to discover it at later points.
Yeah, okay. Agreed.
This is such a great discussion. I don't ever want to let this go. I want this to go another 13 solid hours because I love talking about this stuff with you guys. And this is our wheelhouse. Lore is our wheelhouse. So I'll tell you what, in the interest of time, because I know we're going long, some people are going to love it, some are going to hate it. Okay, let's close with this. And I'm going to start with you, Sonny.
Oh boy.
What is your most memorable lore moment in any game you've played? Doesn't have to be an MMO. It can be any game you've ever played. Your most memorable moment in regards to lore and story.
Probably meeting Thrall. Meeting Thrall in Warcraft was a big deal. Like, just right off the top of my head, you spring this question on me, and I'm like, man, I read that book on Thrall in Warcraft, and I loved it. And then I found him in game, and he was sitting in the war chief room, and I'm like, that's freaking Thrall, right there, right? Now, if I hadn't read that book, I run into that guy, and I'm like, this guy's name is Thrall, right? Like, I don't know who the hell that is. But after reading that book, I was just like in awe. I'm looking at him. I'm looking at what he's wearing. I'm trying to figure out like where in the timeline he exists like this. And it was just a really special moment for me. I thought it was super cool to be able to run into Thrall in the game.
I'm gonna go for me. I can't tell you specifically, but Knights of the Republic. There is a moment in that game. It's near the end of the second act and the third act, when there is a reveal, and my mouth literally dropped. It blew my mind. So for the sake of spoilers, I'm not going to say what it is. So I'm going to say, for sheer shock factor, the moment when I am running in Elder Scrolls Online and I hear an NPC say something, because it revealed the personality of the High Elves towards the Bosmer. Quote, when you realize your race is useless, then we can use you. End quote. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so jacked up. Like, could not believe it. So for sheer shock factor, I'm just going to say that. But my real answer, I can't give. It's in Knights of the Old Republic, KOTOR, the original Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Epic moment reveal. Blew my mind. I remember that. Never forget it. Cash.
I love it. Okay, so I'll finish this one up. I have one that continues to haunt my soul to this day, and it has for a long, long time. And that one is in Skyrim, the Black Sacrament.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's a good one. That's a good one.
Because if you go through the Dark Brotherhood quest line, it is inherently dark. And I would play that on purpose. I would play that after I received my Nightingale armor. And I was as stealthy could be. And I'd start playing through that Dark Brotherhood. And I'll never forget seeing that little boy in the room trying to get the Black Sacrament I think it was to avenge the death of his mother or something. But you walk in that room and that little boy says, sweet mother, send your child unto me.
Man.
For the sins of the unworthy must be baptized in blood and fear. I have effing chills right now.
Yeah.
Thinking about that moment in that game, and that to me was the culmination of all of the lore in the Dark Brotherhood, and that whole faction quest line in that game to me is the absolute pinnacle.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I agree.
That was such a good one. That's that whole thing.
Yeah.
That's a great example of like, okay, here's a lore moment that may not be for everyone, but if you're going down this thing, it's going to get real right now.
Yeah.
Ready or not.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah. And funny side story, when I was doing that, it was about 2 a.m, and my wife came downstairs when that exact moment that was happening, and she opened the door and said, "Are you coming to bed?" And I peed a little.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. Fellas, this was a fun episode. Oh, this was a good time. Good discussions. My goodness, we could talk about lore all day. Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. This was LoreForged, the podcast for Ashes of Creation. If you enjoyed your time here, let us know how we're doing. For every 5-star review that we get right here on the show, we will read it. And of course, it got to be written form in on Apple Podcasts for that one. On Spotify when they add it. But anyway, plus it lets fellow gamers know, like, hey, if this is a show for them. So please, if you haven't left a review, please do and let us know how we're doing. We greatly appreciate it. You can always call us at 516-875-1776. Try to keep your voicemails around a minute or less. We'll play it on the show, as you heard earlier today. And of course, you can always email us as well, LoreForgedHQ@gmail.com. Sonny.
You can go to LoreForged.com to find the links to all of our Ashes of Creation content. That's where our link tree is, and it'll get you to everywhere, including the YouTubes. And on the YouTubes, we have all sorts of stuff, including this podcast, if you'd like to watch it. The YouTube is a excellent place for you to find Ashes of Creation content from us, and that is at youtube.com/@LoreForged. We are also on Twitch right now at twitch.tv/LoreForgedHQ. And finally, join our Patreon. You can get all the content that we have early, as well as our After Dark stuff with which is called, why am I blanking on this? The State of the Owl. Thank you, brain. You figured it out. You can listen and watch The State of the Owl, which is our After Dark episode, and that's at patreon.com/LoreForgedHQ.
You can follow us on X. Jibs is at JibsIRL. I am at Cash Quests, and the Cash is with a K. You can follow Sunny at U of Coruscant, and most importantly, don't forget to follow the show at LoreForgedHQ. Don't forget about Extra Life. Our game day is November 4th, 2023. We're going to be playing our TTRPG from noon to 8 p.m. EST. And I would be very remiss if I did not talk about our growing Discord community that anybody can join. It's actually been really good. This has been a super fruitful week. We have some new folks who've joined us. Kalnazar Rin, which I think is an amazing name. Mr. Bach. The Real Jay Clark, who's an old friend. Welcome and thanks for coming aboard. Giuliana. And then 2 folks that I want to give special mention to. The first one is Chibi Bree. We did the Golden Feather podcast last week, which was super fun with the Golden Feather, and they were really, really cool. So Chibi, thanks for joining us. And also, we had a new person join us, which we're really, really excited about too, is Stakino. He joined us.
Yeah.
So if you haven't checked out either the
Super
Golden
cool.
Feather or Stakino on YouTube, they're just making fantastic content. And we are so dang excited to have content creators also joining up and doing stuff in the mix with them. And just to be part of this community in a nutshell has so far been really, really cool. The content creators are so much fun and so inviting and so welcoming. So thank you guys for joining us. We hope you enjoy your time in our little family.
Also, want to remind people to check out Burns' video on lore, which features Cash. That was an excellent video, Cash.
Yeah, thank you very much. He's really. You guys have not seen Ashes of Relation. Please do yourself a favor.
Oh yeah,
he's really, really doing a good job with some very fun, some well thought out and well done videos. Are really, really a good time to. He makes you feel at home very, very quickly about your own experiences and his experiences, and not just life, but in MMOs, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, agreed. Good content. Oh, well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this show. You have a great week, and we'll see you back here next week as we jump into the development update. Take care, everybody.
Peace, love, and honeybees.
Safe travels, adventurers.